Hi, my name is Alessandra, and I'd like to invite you to my permaculture site, the Hammer and Hole Hollow. Follow along as I break down my game plan to create a paradise that inspires one to fall back into balance with the rhythms of nature. A little bit about myself. I'm an artist and a nature enthusiast. After living with my fiance in his childhood hometown, I became inspired to start living a more self reliant lifestyle. With no experience and a black thumb, I installed a garden bed, small orchard, and collected a flock of chickens. I had some success, but was struggling with the additional workload. After some research, I came across a video describing the gardening technique known as permaculture, and I was instantly hooked. Fast forward to when we were fortunate enough to be able to purchase 20 wooded acres on the other side of Ohio. Utilizing the permaculture design process, our goal is to design a regenerative homestead here. Our current goals for the property are to design and construct an eco conscious house, grow our own food and medicine, and create a closed loop system for our pet rabbits. We are currently having blueprints drafted for the house by local Amish builders. We chose an Amish crew because of their known quality and experience in the more unconventional components of our house design. These include a rain harvesting with cistern system as our main water source, gray water recycling, cold room, wood burning boiler system for heat, and proper window placement for passive heating and cooling. This spring, we will begin construction on our Eden garden ourselves and plan to have the pond, perennial beds, and perimeter fence installed by the end of 2026. In 2027, our goal is to complete the house by fall, and once construction of the house has reached the appropriate point, we will install the herb and gray water gardens. In 2028, we will set up the school bus greenhouse, sow the Timothy hay food plot, start our mushroom logs, and begin raising quail for meat and eggs. My fiance Denver grew up on a conventional farm where he gained a lot of experience and knowledge about operating the machinery necessary to raise crops and livestock on a large scale. He would like to design our site to be manageable and comfortable even in old age. He wants the site to maintain a private and tranquil atmosphere. His main concerns for developing the site are the steep slopes, the shallowness of the ponds, predation, and controlling the bugs, particularly those that eat wood, bite, and sting. Our pet rabbits will need unlimited Timothy hay, water, and a safe home with plenty of room to roam. They currently use pine pellets for their litter boxes, and they receive a small portion of pelleted food each day. I use their litter box waste as a top dressing for our garden beds. Our pet snake eats 4 small mice a month and needs access to unlimited water. He receives wood chip bedding that, once spent, can be added to ornamental garden beds as a mulch. We chose to add quail to our design as a source of meat and eggs. They will also benefit the Eden garden as a pest control and fertilizer mechanism. They will be kept in quail tractors so they can safely graze in the Eden garden. The quail will need water, wild game feed, bedding, oyster shells, and grit. We will also need to invest in an incubator for hatching their eggs. This is the base map of our site. The site is comprised of 20 secluded, heavily wooded acres. There are 3 ponds, fresh springs, and a clay mud pit and walking trails. Infrastructure on the site includes electricity, the barn, and the cabin remnants, a small dock, the driveway, gate, and our camper. A look at our contour map reveals the steep elevational changes throughout the site. Right now, our zones feel very detached from one another. Once the house is built and the gardens installed, the zones will better align, with smooth transitions from one zone to another. Zone 0 will move from the camper to the house and will include the herb and gray water gardens. Zone 1 will include the surrounding gravel, barn, and the school bus greenhouse. The driveway will change from being Zone 2 to being split between Zones 2 and 3. Zone 2 will consist of the right side of the driveway, the Eden garden, and the camper. Zone 3 will be the left side of the driveway, including the portion that leads down to the ponds, and the Timothy hay plots. Zones 4 and 5 will remain mostly the same, except the ponds will become part of Zone 4 and will receive the addition of mushroom logs along the trails. This is my sectors map of the site. There are several spots where the watershed is leading to erosion and needs to be addressed. There are animal tracks leading through our Eden garden location, indicating that the garden border needs to be designed with our fellow inhabitants in mind. Also, maintaining views of the pond is important to us for visual appeal. These are my microclimate maps. There are a few sunny locations on site that we will take advantage of for growing food. I will have to be mindful of what is growing under the power lines, as anything that gets too tall will be cut down by the power company, a lesson I have already learned the hard way when I lost my elderberry shrub. There are many resources available on site. The forest offers wild edibles, medicinals, wild game, lumber, and inspiration. We have multiple sources of water, including fresh springs and ponds. The clay pit can provide clay for my sculptures and potentially cob structures. Though the village of New Lexington is small, it still offers many locally owned resources, like the feed and seed store, local butcher, mechanic, and restaurants. There is a local landfill, a grocery store, and even a community center. I'm constantly discovering different species on this site that I have documented in the following slides. Notable species we want to protect include the endangered butternut, the threatened common box turtle, the rare ghost pipe flower, and the edible black morel mushroom. We will need to manage invasive species like autumn olive, red-eared sliders, and Japanese honeysuckle. When it comes to adding species, we want to focus on adding mostly native perennials like bee balm, pawpaws, and buckeyes. Utilizing native perennials benefits the most species on site for the least amount of work over time. I performed an analysis on four of the major sectors influencing the site. For instance, I noticed multiple animal tracks leading through the site for our Eden garden. To protect the garden, I will install a fence tall enough to deter deer and buried it deep enough to keep critters from digging their way underneath. Then I'll surround the fence with briars and a series of deterring plants for good measure. I wanted to include as many eco-conscious design elements in our house as feasibly possible. My house construction analysis revealed regenerative opportunities like utilizing a wood-burning boiler system to heat our home with the abundance of wood on site, and rainwater harvesting, since county water is unavailable and digging a well is impractical due to the damaged water table. Harvesting rainwater is our best choice and will help to reduce some of the erosion on site. This is a rough draft of the house I designed to share with our contractors to express the floor plan that we desire. With the overreaching goal of our design being to fall back into rhythm with natural cycles, I wanted to lay out the house to mirror the natural flow of energy throughout the day. We start our day in the bedroom with low energy, like a sunrise. As we move from the bedroom to the bathroom and to the kitchen, energy demand rises, just like it does through the day. Then, into the evening, the energy demand starts decreasing, like dusk, and continues to decrease as we move from the living room and back to the bedroom at night. Another heavy influence on the house layout was how components inside the house connect with components outside the house, as demonstrated in this graph. For example, high activity rooms like the kitchen, dining, and laundry are positioned on the southwestern side of the home in order to receive the most natural light, which will keep us motivated through daily tasks and curb energy consumption by reducing the need for artificial lighting. Taking time to research and observe has taught me a lot about our site. This is a thriving ecosystem, and it is imperative we make design choices with that in mind. Water flow, combined with the site's steep elevation, has revealed opportunities to fight soil erosion. There are invasive flora like autumn olive and Japanese honeysuckle, as well as invasive fauna like red-eared sliders and stink bugs, competing with the native wildlife that we will continue to remove, and threatened native species like the common box turtle and Arctic raspberries we want to protect. This map represents the analysis I performed on Zone 0. We want to have the house built roughly where the current cabin stands to enjoy the overlooking views of the pond. The cabin was left incomplete with plywood and insulation exposed to the elements. There are sparse, sickly trees and a large fire pit too close to the cabin, risking the integrity of the future house. The soil is drier and rockier in this area, with heavy erosion on some of the slopes. The house will be designed to harvest rainwater and to divert gray water. During rain events, rain that lands on the roof will travel through the gutters, filtration systems, and will be stored in the cistern under the house. The cistern's overflow pipe will direct excess water into the herb garden. A gray water diverter can be set to direct gray water into the gray water garden bed. There are other improvements besides water flow we want to make to this zone. We are going to remove all the sick trees and fire pit. The steep slopes will be terraced, fertilized, and planted with herbs. Walkways will be installed to visually connect the house with other zones. The cabin remnants will be torn down and recycled, and the future house will be built in its place to receive the best views of the landscape. This is the location on site where I plan to install the Eden Garden. I chose this spot because it receives the most amount of sunlight, and its position near the end of our driveway should spark curiosity with neighbors driving by. This area receives a lot of water to the point of oversaturation. There are also many animal tracks through this area, leading from across the road. There are electric lines that run over part of the space, and I will have to be mindful nothing tall is planted underneath them. We also notice that rainwater flushes gravel from the main road onto our site, creating a dam where water naturally wants to flow. These are a few pictures showing where gravel is flushed from the road and builds up on our site. This is the layout for our Eden Garden once installation is complete. I'm going to dig a pond in the lowest part of the garden to collect the water that flows through here, mitigating soggy soil conditions. Adjacent to the pond, I will build a swale and hugelkultur bed to help protect plants from potential root rot. The annual garden beds will be located under the power lines. This will prevent the annuals from being shaded out by taller plants and avoids the risk of anything too tall growing under the power lines. I designed the site layout so I can easily maneuver each quail tractor around its own circle of the garden. To best secure our main food sources, I have designed a multi-layered barrier around the garden's perimeter. I have started to plant a briar thicket on the garden and forest border, utilizing wild roses and raspberry plants I find growing around the property. This serves as a first line of defense to deter critters. Then we will construct a 7-foot tall garden fence around the entire perimeter. This fence should be tall enough to deter deer and will be buried under the soil to prevent critters from digging their way in. After that, I'm going to plant a row of deterrent plants between the driveway and garden. These plants will also serve as a pollution barrier, filtering the water that flows from the main road before reaching the garden. We have started collecting the pile of runoff gravel to fill spots in our driveway, clearing the way for water to flow freely again. I wanted to dedicate a sit spot in my garden that will serve as a visual reminder to continue taking time for observations. For this, I chose to construct a sweet pea teepee. I chose sweet pea for its nitrogen-fixing properties, ability to attract pollinators, therapeutic and medicinal benefits. In many cultures, sweet pea symbolizes delicate pleasure and transient beauty. It is often linked to themes of farewell and will symbolize parting with modern ways of living to embrace a more natural lifestyle. This is the predicted future microclimates in the Eden Garden. Once the rest of the garden is established, I'd like to take time to observe these microclimates closer to decide the best uses for these areas. This is my implementation plan by zone. This chart breaks down each element into implementation phases. For my implementation plan, I created a timeline over the next 3 years. This year, I want to start with finalizing the house blueprints since this is the most permanent structure we plan to add and will determine the final layout of the rest of the design. From there, I want to begin installing the Eden Garden, starting with the pond, swales, and hugelkultur bed. We want to establish these before building the fence so our tractor can easily access the area. By year 2, our focus will shift to getting the house built and all the perennial beds established. By year 3, we want to finish the garden by adding the annual beds and quail. I designated the majority of our implementation tasks to year 1, decreasing over the next 2 years. This was intentional to account for the growing maintenance demands the site will require as more components are added. I broke down my maintenance plan by zone and maintenance frequency. This exercise gave me a visual to better understand how much time I need to delegate to each design component and helped me to double check that each component is placed in the appropriate zone. To track the site's progress, what's working and what isn't, I have established a few different feedback loops. I set time aside in my maintenance plan for weekly, monthly, and seasonal observations. I will also conduct a seasonal stakeholder interview to gain different perspectives on how well the design is functioning. Each component of the design will receive a predetermined budget as a boundary to help indicate when it is time to move on from a particular component that isn't producing desired results. Reflecting back, I am immensely grateful for all the knowledge I have gained through this course. I've found myself becoming more aware of patterns and can see far more connections between separate components than ever before. I know there is still much to learn and challenges ahead, but thanks to this course, I know I have the right tools in my tool belt to overcome these obstacles. Thank you, Heather, and to all the amazing souls that helped make this course possible. Now I march forward, eager to create a paradise that inspires one to fall back into balance with the rhythms of nature.